I've not got any more decent enough cardboard to cut out. I think I'm just going to YOLO this and go straight to the sheet steel. I may regret this. So I had a different idea for this bike. Initially I had this all a nice open space with a battery box underneath sticking out slightly. I had a bit of a change of heart. I think I said in the previous video, I feel that sometimes having a wide open space for the style of bike that I'm doing, a Brat style with quite chunky wheels, I have a bit of a chunky seat, but it won't have any weight up the back really, it'll just be a seat. This open space is a little bit too open. I feel having something like a side cover, like the original bike, but slightly different design, it'll help beef the bike out a bit, make it look a bit more aggressive. So I decided that if I can incorporate my side covers, well, first of all I need to build a battery box. To build a battery box I'd quite like to have it top loadable, so this plate needs to go. If you look at the battery box and the scrambler, built out of what appeared to be military grade armour plated steel, it sits nicely underneath, but I think I built it too small. But anyway, you take the seat off and you have direct access to the battery box, and I tried to mount it using, you can't really see it here, there's internal fittings, but you try to mount it using existing mounting holes on the frame itself. Mounting this is my next challenge, but initially I want to build a battery box that, if I've got the room, if I'm going to put side covers in here, I might as well utilise the maximum space I have and hide all my electrics in here. So I've been working on a CAD design, you can see it on the screen here, that looks at modelling an area, a smaller triangular shape that will sit within this space underneath the seat, and it shall incorporate, half of it will be an air box. So I will take, my carburetors will be in here, I'll take extended runners and go into this air box, that's fine, and then the other half will be the battery box to take things like my battery, obviously, other electrics as they start to, ignition unit and whatnot, as they start to arrive. That will then have to be mounted somehow, whether or not so I'm going to cut this out, I think, but first of all I'm going to focus on just getting a battery box made, and then I'll leave an excess material to allow me to mount it somewhere, whether it bolts in or whether, I don't really know whether it should be removable or not. I don't really know why it would be, but again, it would be a nice option to have, because initially I thought, well, I could just weld the whole thing in place, which is fine, but I'm just trying to think of scenarios where I would need to remove the entire battery box and air box. It may make removing carbs easier, but if I've got a removable air box, like you would on a normal bike, but I'm not really sure whether that impacts me here as much or not. So that's the base plan. I've got some 1.6mm steel lying over there, but I'm going to cut out a cardboard shape, because as good as computer aided design is, it'll never beat cardboard aided design. So I'm going to cut out a cardboard shape first, make sure it fits. I'll do that. I've got a metal bender, and I've also got this handy little tool, angle finder, so we'll show you how that works in a minute. Then I'll look to build the battery box, get that done in this episode, or at least a lot of it done in this episode. Once I figure out how to mount it, that'll be great. I then want to put side covers on, so if you see in this little picture that I've put up, I did say at the start, when I was introducing this bike, I want to build more parts, whether that's with carbon fibre, would be the ideal, or fiberglass, as long as I can continue to build parts and use this as an excuse to try and learn a little bit more. So I think I want to try and build some side covers. The CAD picture I've put up is okay. I think it needs more shape to the actual body, but the key part of that is that we've got a grill that feeds directly into the airbox. I think this will be quite a neat solution. I don't think I've seen anything like this before. If I have, then I've completely plagiarised it and didn't really realise. It's my bike, I don't care. Anyway, I think that's going to be the neatest solution. With a nice little side cover. I guess in my previous build over here, I've detabbed the frame. The same owner, previous owner, has detabbed the frame here, meaning there's no more mounting points for what do you call them, side cover mounting points, but that's fine. I've got a different solution. I'll just have to weld some back on. It's not the end of the world. Realistically, I just need to see where everything else fits in terms of airbox, tie-in points and everything else. Then we can look at, right, how do we've got an outline shape for this side cover, how do we fit that side cover? So the side cover will come later, airbox, electrical box, that will come at some point today. So first things first, we need to cut off the, cut out this thing. So we'll roll the bike outside and we'll get that cut off. And then we need to start marking up, measuring and all that other fun stuff. So let's get started. I'm going to be here all day. Fuck that. What do you think of my sex offender safety glasses? I feel we've now got a much better idea of what we're working with. So I cleaned up the last little bits with the Dremel. It actually came in really useful. You just cut in, get right into the corners. So this will need tidied up once the bike's apart. I'm going to obviously take it apart anyway before I get powder coated and whatnot. So little bits like the welds that need tidied up underneath. But this will do absolutely fine for what I need at the moment. So we'll go have a look at the battery box and see what we need to do to get this battery box in place. So this template, real quick and easy. I just matched these profiles exactly so that it does fit in there nicely. I'm not really planning on, I just took the angles, traced it out, cut it out with a knife, fairly straightforward. This then, I'll need to try and figure out. I'm not planning on making this the full size. I don't think I need it. If you look at the things like the battery will fit in nicely. I think realistically 2/3 of this box will be battery, electrics and everything else if I cut it down out here. The other half will be to allow inlets, maybe have pod filters that sit within here. But then I'll have an air vent that sits in the side that we can suck in air to the engine, to the pod filters, to the velocity stacks, into the carburetors. So realistically, a lot of this will be hidden, so it's not the end of the world with how it looks and whatnot. But I don't want to be carrying around excess weight if I don't need to either. It's made with quite thin steel, so that should eliminate that. But I think what I'm going to do is cut this. This is about 21 centimeters top to bottom at the moment. I think realistically we probably don't need that. I think we maybe need just a little bit more than what we've got, just a little bit either side on the electrics box. I'm not going to cut it too shy because that'll be a complete pain in the ass. I'd have to do it all again. I think I might pick a point. I'm going to edit it. I'm going to cut this, and it's only cardboard, so better to do these mistakes now than later on. So let's have a little look at this. Ideally I'd maybe like to try and build the whole thing out of cardboard. It's hard to get cardboard that isn't really super thick, despite having tons and tons of it sent to the house for all these orders. But so I think this measurement was slightly out. Easy done when using a Sharpie. You have glasses and you just are quite ham-fisted in general. So that's the benefit of using cardboard. It means that you can make your mistakes now, get it right before you use something more expensive like steel, which is also more difficult to cut, less forgiving. In reality, this is not going to get seen, really, but I still want it to be right, because you gotta take a pride in what you do, right? Okay, I've spent way longer than I would like to admit faffing around with this template. I seem to get thrown every time I put the template against the here, that it didn't look like it was perfectly in line, and despite it probably is, but I think the lines behind kept throwing me, and maybe it was just a bit of an illusion. But anyway, I think I'm fairly happy with how this is now. Either way, you're never going to see this because I'm going to have side panels on, but I wanted it to look right anyway, just because why half-ass it. So anyway, I think I've got something right now. What I'm going to do is trace out whatever the length of these edges is, measure that. I'm thinking that I'll have an additional lip on either side so that we can mount it. We'll have welding points here, here and here that we can just have it sitting nicely, so like a lip should do, to keep that in place. So I'm going to cut out, if you imagine this is a 3D section, we've got this on either side. Actually, just look at the CAD that's up on the screen at the moment. So I'm going to cut out the middle section first and try and bend it using my sheet metal bender. So I've got some sheet metal underneath all that stuff there, 1.6mm mild steel. So I'm going to trace that out, figure out how thick I want it. That's another thing. Do I want it the same thickness, or do I want it to match the profile here? Ideally, probably I'd like it to match this profile. So I need to figure out how to do that. It means on the side panels I might have a little bend, and in the middle bit, the bit that runs in the middle, that will also have a little bend. So I'm going to try and trace that out now and then see how it looks. So I kind of gave up yesterday because I think I was being a bit of a retard with it when it comes to cutting this shape. I couldn't try to build this thing out of cardboard, it wouldn't line up. The main difficulty I have is, you see in the CAD model, it bends in twice, so because I want it to match the profile of the bike frame, which if you look down the top of the bike frame, it obviously gets narrower towards the front of the bike. So instead of it just being a straight box with an angled bottom, it's got an angled bottom as well as the angled sides, so as you unfold that and look at it, it looks a little bit different. It's not as easy to visualise, especially when you're trying to figure out what the certain lengths are across those angles. So I chucked it back into CAD with the dimensions that I did know. I used the trusty thing that I'd built here, and then the CAD confirmed. So I used my angles, and it spat out some lengths and everything else. So I knew I had the top length and the bottom length and what I wanted those to be. I was able just to pick dimensions directly off the CAD model itself. Don't know if you can see that or not, or whether it actually means anything, but I've not got any more decent enough cardboard to cut out. I think I'm just going to YOLO this and go straight to the sheet steel. I may regret this, but I have got enough sheet steel, so I'm going to measure it out, and then I'm going to take it out to somewhere outside. So I've got the bike back in the garage now. I don't want to be cutting that in the garage. So I'm going to take it out somewhere up the back of the house probably, and get it cut to size. And then I've got a metal bending tool that I've not used yet, so I might cut an excess scrap and try on that first, just to make sure I'm okay getting the angles and everything else, and then we'll go from there. So hopefully we'll have a box, we can then shove everything together, and then we can get it welded up and get this bloody box finished, because I'm losing the will to live with it. The annoying thing is you'll never see it. That's me through and through, stressing about getting angles and everything right, but if someone does take the side panels off, you'll see that it should match nicely with the profiles of the frame. So let's go get this marked up and see how we get on cutting it out. I'm not gonna lie, it took me way longer than I would like to admit to figure out a small piece of child level mathematics. I had this 56 here was obviously at an angle that I've not measured what that angle is, so I needed to get the vertical distance so I could then draw my, it doesn't matter what the angle is as long as I had the vertical distance between the two, but it's Pythagoras theorem and I was being a retard. You wouldn't think I have a master's in engineering, but there you go. Oh well, onwards. Alright, I took my time measuring that out just because I don't really want to have to do it again. The side panels here, I'm going to cut one out and then I'll try that against, save me cutting two out, and if it ends up not quite matching up with this base, I'd rather make this fit that than that to fit this, if that makes sense. So I'm going to go take this outside, up the back of the garage and get this cut. This is my metal bender. It doesn't really fit in the vise as yet. It needs something bolted on the bottom to mount between these two bolting points, so I can then just hold it. I could either bolt it to the bench, which I can't really be asked doing, so I'm going to mount it a bit of a metal across the bottom and then just bolt that metal to here, so then I can just put this in here and it's raised up enough that I can get this thing nice and flat and then be able to try. I've never used one of these before. I think it's fairly straightforward. I hope it's fairly straightforward. We'll give it a try in some trial pieces first, but first I'm just going to get a bit of metal mounted onto the bottom of here. We can try my new trusty metal chopping bandsaw to show you how light work it makes of some rectangle stock steel. So let's go do that. So I've never used one of these before. My little mod here to hold it nicely in the vise seems to have worked out alright. I think the main premise is ensuring that your line that you're folding against is just on this pivot point, or just there or thereabouts. I won't be bending to 90 degrees, obviously. I will be bending to the angles that we've calculated here. So the first bend will be, get out of the way, first bend will be up into this point, second bend will be up until this point. So it'll be more of a trial and error, I think, to try and get these angles exactly, because this purely is, it's not a fancy machine. You don't put in your predetermined angle and it doesn't bend it automatically, there's no gauge or anything, so it will be trial by fire. Fingers crossed. We've spent a bit of time marking this out. I don't really want to have to do it again, so I might take my time with this, but I'll speed up the video so you don't get bored shitless. Alright, that doesn't seem, sorry, these glasses are simply awful. That doesn't seem so bad. Where are we? Bend quite easily, even if you have to overbend it to allow a bit of spring back, but that bit seems to be okay. How it mates up with this bit here is okay as well. Main thing we need to add here now is a bend to match the fact that this kicks in the way. Matches the angle of the bike frame. So I'm going to try and figure out where on this needs to be bent. Because I was fairly happy with how it is, I've taken another one, I've taken a trace out of this. I'll cut that out in a minute. Okay, so this is his profile here. I don't think it's perfect. I don't think it's that far off either, to be honest. Definitely got something I think we'll be able to weld together. So let me just go and do the other side, and then we'll get the welding kit set up, and we'll show you what we need to try and do to tack this together. Oh hey. Has anyone else become a borderline alcoholic during this COVID-19 quarantine lockdown? Anyway, we're going to start welding, and I bought this TIG welder last year, and I've been using it off and on. I did have it set up over the other side of my garage where I was standing to use it, and it was just awful. I had very little motor control, so I've moved everything over to the other side of my garage so I can sit down and have a lot more control. I think this metal is very thin. It's 1.6mm thin. I've got a few offcuts here, similar to what I'm about to try and do, so I think what I'll do is I'll just do a few trial runs, make sure I've got my settings okay. I think I'm going to do this autogenously, meaning I'll just melt the two together. I don't think I need, if I feel like I need filler wire because the gap's too big, then I'll use it, but I don't think I'll need it realistically. Flame me if I'm wrong, call me out in the comments and put me right, because I don't know any better, but this isn't going to be something that needs a deep penetrated weld. I'll try with some filler wire here as well, but I don't think I'll need it. So initially I'm going to tack this together, get a nice setting for running a bead, just to see that I'm not going to burn through the metal. Once I'm happy I've got the settings, then we'll get the box, which is just sat behind me, brought over, and we'll tack that together as well, and then we'll run some welds, and hopefully it'll be done. So fingers crossed I don't blow any massive holes in it. Probably. Let's go give this a little blast. Alright, so we've got our dodgy ass battery box that I've managed to roughly bend into shape. I think some of them may need slight adjustment, but hopefully I'm going to weld one side on, and then one side's actually really quite good. I'm not so happy with this side, but if I get this side on, it keeps it fixed and everything else, and I can see what I need to do with this side to get it working properly. I've cleaned up all the bits on my trusty wire wheel. Got a new one of them a few weeks ago when I got the bandsaw, so for help tidying stuff up. So it was a bench grinder with a nice wire wheel attachment. So I'm going to try and get this set up, tack it in place at a few different points, and then we'll go ahead and see what we need to do to get this whole thing together. It's alright, it's not the nicest thing to weld, purely because I don't really know what I'm doing. I definitely will be utilising my old friend Mr. Grinder just to tidy it up, but yeah. So the bits I autogenous welded, they look alright. I don't know how strong they are in reality. There's a bit of penetration on the backside. Because of my ham-fistedness, it wasn't always easy enough to do that, because you've got a wide enough gap that means you have to fill that. In reality, I probably should have made it better. I've got a gap here at the end. I don't know if you can see it. There's a wee gap there that I've tried to pull together with a vise, but it wasn't really working. So I can either, I think what I might just do is dab it, fill it with weld. That might be a horrendous welder's faux pas, but I'm not building this again. And like I said before, no one's going to see it. That doesn't mean I don't want to learn how to do it properly, but there's also this is taking quite a few hours now, so I'm going to try and go ahead, see what I can do with this, see how it turns out. Let's flip the mask. Okay, so the box is all tigged together, tigged in its loosest form. It's very solid. I managed to shove some old filler rod in there and fill any of the holes due to my inaccuracies when cutting and folding and whatnot. I'm quite chuffed because it's quite a complex shape for me. It did go together, yes, I've had to blow some holes in it and whatever, but I'm still learning. I've never been shown how to use a TIG, so it's all self-taught. I feel like the last few runs there I was getting better, but still a bit of work needed, which is fine. I've got lots of spare metal here. My plan over the next little while is just every chance I can get out, spend a couple of hours out in the garage and just try and fine-tune my skills a little bit and just understand what I'm doing a little bit more, so I can start tweaking the settings and whatnot. And there I welded most of that, I think, at around 40-45 amps. You noticed where the butts were nice and close together. It actually welded really nice. I'd like to say I'd show you some dimes, but there's some bits where it did seem to weld a lot nicer, and you could feel it, you knew what you were doing. So yes, I was fighting the fact that this is probably not the finest tolerance work, but quite happy with it. There's a bit here that seems to have been same on the other side though, so it must have been I've probably caused this curve to happen too early, but I will clean this up with a sanding pad on the grinder, just to take the rough away, just because it doesn't look very good. Looks like one of those play parks that you've seen welded unbelievably badly. I don't know if you've seen those pictures, so I'll put one up. It doesn't look quite as bad as this, but it's okay. This is a big piece of the puzzle because this allows me to have a home now for electrics. So I need to buy an Axel Just B box, which is like the cheapo peasant version of the Moto Gadget thing. It's about 120 quid cheaper, so I need to buy that, but I'll get the battery actually. Let's have a little look. So, perfect. I can either mount it like that, I can mount it straight down. I've got other bits and bobs that need to fit in here. That axle box thing will sit here, I can get some other shit down the side there, so that's cool. Let's go take it over to the bike and see how it looks. Right, so it doesn't look, yeah, the welds are pretty shit, but it fits in there nice. I've got the scope to, it drops in from the top, but I need to try and fit some mounting tabs on this frame. Probably not going to cover that in this video. What I will do is quickly tidy the welds up, and I'll summarise where I need to go next with this build. Thanks for watching, folks. In the next build we're going to, I don't really know what we're going to do. We'll play it by ear. I have got an exhaust I need to build, so that's really going to hone my skills in. So keep watching. If you like what you watched, please like and subscribe to my channel. It means a lot, and keep sending the messages. It's really cool speaking to everyone new that follows, and tell me about your project. I always like to see who else has got other projects going on and doing a similar thing, just getting stuck in your garage. So yeah, till next time.